Hello everyone, welcome to VENKANNA English Guru. Friends, in this video, I'm going to talk about, do you really want to know how a poem is to be read? And do you want to improve various strategies of reading lengthy poems like Ode to Nightingale, Ode to Autumn or lengthy poems? Do you really want to improve your score in NET examination by reading? Do you really want to know some shortcut techniques for reading lengthy poems? Do you really want to be a junior lecturer or a degree lecturer? So this video is for you. As a part of this video, I'm going to give you some brief uh, summary and shortcut techniques of reading Ode to Nightingale. Okay, Ode to Nightingale, it's a popular, and previously I made a video on Ode to Autumn. If you have not watched it, you can watch it. And this video is all about some specific examination oriented bits. If you are seriously preparing for if you seriously and want to have some basic important aspects as a part of John Keats' Ode to Nightingale. Friends, as I told you, according to Cleanth Brooks and the study of poetry, where he actually talks about what points are to be kept in mind while reading a poem, and for academics, for critical appreciation. And these are the major important aspects I'm giving you to get some idea, get some exposure to competitive world. So poem Ode to Nightingale and the poet John Keats and the narrator who speaks in this and the poet, because it's an example for lyric and ode. All odes are examples for lyrics, as I mentioned previously in my previous videos. So it's an example for ode, it's an example for lyric, which means the poet himself is the narrator in the poem. And so where is it actually taken from? It is actually taken from Annals of Fine Arts, July 1819. So Annals of Fine Arts, published in the spring of 1819. And 1819 is considered to be the greatest year in the life of John Keats. Next, you see meter. What kind of meter has been adapted by the poet in this? So the first 7 and last 2 lines of each stanza are written in iambic pentameter. Friends, as I told you, this is composed in blank words. And the 8th line of each stanza is in trimeter with only 3 accented syllables and instead of 5. This is the only difference, and which includes setting and setting in the garden of Keats' house, Hampstead. So it is actually composed. What is the place of action in which the writer, in which the poet speaks? So in the garden of Keats' house, Hampstead. So how many stanzas are there? 8 10-line stanzas. So how many lines? 80 lines. Very important. And the rhyme scheme, very, very, very important, my friends. The rhyme scheme of every stanza: AB, AB, CDE, CDE. So AB, AB, CDE, CDE. You have to remember this and stanza rhyme scheme. Next, what is the first beginning line of this poem? My heart aches and the drowsy numbness pains. A very popular line, several times, and this bit featured a lot in many examinations. And the last line, flight in that music, do I wake or sleep? So this is a very popular poem which ends with a rhetorical question. Next, friends, and what are the important lines of this popular lengthy 80 line poem? And that though light winged and winged dried of trees, that was not born of death, immortal birth, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. A very popular line, my friends. Or new love pined them beyond tomorrow. And happily the queen moon is on her throne, and clustered around by all her starry face, thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves. Oh, here. Next, oh, for a draught of vintage that has been and cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, to seize upon the midnight with no pain. Away, away, and fro I will fly to thee, no charioted by botches and despairs, the light winged dried of the trees. Very popular, important lines. Several times these lines were given. Next, and you can also see some more important lines, my friends, and the characters. So what are the important characters of this poem? So the poet Nightingale and the Tom and Botches, very, very important. Botches is a character in Ode to Nightingale. Moon, hypocrites, and starts, pals, Ruth, very popular character, and Death, Mary, emperors, clones. Next, what are the important images? Actually, I thought of giving you and images and their implied meanings, but I could not give you. So a drowsy numbness, what could be the meaning? And light winged dried of the trees, a drought of vintage, the deep delved earth, and provincial song, leaden eyed dissipates, immortal bird. So all that are very popular images, and I gave you some basic images and their meanings. You can see a drowsy numbness or hemlock, and this is actually written under a an hemlock tree. Next, a very poisonous and plant and opiate drain and late words dried of the trees. So a female spirit who lives in a tree. So these images you need to know. And beach and green, like that. And stanza two, and the popular and the mean sunburnt myth, the meaning, and the blushful hypocrite and the vintage, a drought and purple strained mouth. So these meanings that you need to you need to read by looking at the original text of the stanza. Next is stanza 3, the popular one, palsy shakes, leaden eyed, and lustrous eyes, and all that are very important. And Bacchus, the god of wine and wild enjoyment. And who is Bacchus? The god of wine. So all these images and meaning symbols that you need to know for very somewhat some lengthy kind of questions, my friends. And you can see starry fray and the bridge is blown and like that. Next we can see and white hawthorn. Next you can also see and some of the meanings of stanza 5 and stanza and easeful death and pouring forth and ecstasy, some small simple meanings, and alien corn and charmed magic and the foam forlorn, very very important, my friend, appearing lonely and unhappy, the meaning of forlorn, and stanza 8. So these meanings are to be read when you keep the original text with you. Next, what are the important figurative expressions? So I gave you two simple examples. In the poem Ode to Nightingale, you will get a bit like this. In the poem Ode to Nightingale, a line reads that though light winged ride refers to, and they will give you, and a Greek goddess of nature, a female spirit of trees, a Roman a god of nature, a god of trees, and a Greek goddess of nature. In the Ode to Nightingale, the poet flies to the bird on chariot of Bacchus. So these aspects are to be known. And what is the theme of stanza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? So I gave you some short summary of every stanza. So you can see the speaker opens with stanza 1, and the speaker opens with a declaration of his own heartache, and he feels numb as though he had taken a drug only a moment ago. He is addressing a nightingale and he hears singing somewhere in the forest and says that his drowsy numbness is not from envy of the nightingale's happiness, but rather from the sharing it too completely. He is too happy that the nightingale sings the music of summer from amid and some unseen plot of green trees and shadows. Some short summary of stanza 1 and stanza 2. In second stanza, the speaker longs for an oblivion of alcohol, expressing his wish for wine, a draught of vintage that would taste like the country and like peasant dances, and let him leave the world unseen and disappear into the dim forest with the nightingale. So he looks at the nightingale and he says, even I want to go out of this world. And because by listening to your songs, I feel like I'm going away. So in the same way, as he had opium and he thinks of going out of this world by listening to the song of nightingale. And third stanza, he explains that his desire to fade away and saying he would like to forget the troubles, and nightingale has never known the weariness, the fever, and the fret of human life, and with its consciousness that everything is mortal and nothing lasts, and youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, and beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. So where he says, because everything is not going to be permanent in this world, everything fades away. In the same way, and my life, my happiness, my troubles, everything will go. You can also see a lot of people take a lot of alcohol by and only for forgetting those problems for a while. But after getting up and fading away your drowsiness, what will happen again? You think of same thing actually talks about. In the fourth stanza, the speaker tells the nightingale to fly away and he will not follow, and not through alcohol, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but through poetry, which will give him viewless wings. And he says he's already with the nightingale and describes the forest glade where even the moonlight is hidden by the trees, except the light that breaks through when the breezes blow the branches. So he is speaking to the nightingale and talks about, yes, I'm viewless, I'm going out of this world, like, and by listening to your songs, and even the process, and because I'm able to write a certain kind of poetry, through this I'm leaving all my worries and going out of this world. That's what he says as a part of stanza 4. In stanza 5th stanza, the speaker says that he cannot see the flowers and in the glade but can guess them in ember darkness, while hawthorn and eglantine and violets and musk rose, the murmurous on supplies of summer eves. So, and by because this is actually a song that is sung during summer, and it goes on describing what appears in England, in London, and during summer, and he says that he is not able to see and the glories that he usually sees in summer. Next, in 6th stanza, the speaker listens and dark to the nightingale, saying that he has often been half in love with the idea of dying and called death soft, and names in many rhymes. Surrounded by the nightingale song, the speaker thinks the idea of death seems richer than ever. So, by looking at I want to die just by listening to your song. So, your song remembers me, and that, and even death is not going to be for a long time. And long seas upon the midnight with no pain, the nightingale pours its soul and forth. If he were to die, the nightingale would continue to sing. And he says, but he would have ears in vain and be no longer able to hear. So he says, and he is not going to listen to the song of the nightingale, and which means still he feels his pains. In the 7th stanza, the speaker tells the nightingale that it is immortal. Yes, the song of the bird is immortal, but is it possible for us to be immortal in this world? And that it was not born for death, the song of the nightingale. And the nightingale is born not for death. He says that the voice and that he hears singing has always been heard, and by ancient emperors and clowns, by homesick Ruth. And he even says the song has often charmed open magic windows, looking out over the foam of perilous seas if and fairy lands forlorn, which means, and your song, your voice might have been heard by a number of kings, clones, but your voice is eternal, like you, in the same way, but we are not going to be eternal in this world. That's what he says. And the 8th stanza, the word forlorn tolls like a bell to restore the speaker from his preoccupation with the nightingale and back into himself, as the nightingale flies farther away and from him, and he laments that his imagination has failed him, says that he cannot no longer recall whether the nightingale's music was a vision or and waking dream. Now that the music is gone, the speaker cannot recall whether he himself is awake or asleep, which means the speaker is dead. The speaker is not and the speaker is not able to recollect and his ideas about and his discussion with the nightingale. What could be the major theme? What is he trying to say in 2-3 lines? The ode is inspired by the exquisite melody of Nightingale's song and is characterized by the brilliant use of rich sensuous imagery. It suggests a sharp contrast between the pure delight, beauty, and timelessness of the birds, and song and the sorrow, imperfection and transience of beauty, love and joy in human life, because we have love, joy, beauty, and everything. So this poem, a personal poem that describes Keats' journey into the state of negative capability. What is negative capability? Do you have a lot of uncertainties, doubts, difficulties, and problems in your life, but you feel as if you don't have anything and you lead your life? That's what this poem talks about. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about in this video, a small video, my friends. Like our video, share our video to your friends and classmates, and stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll talk about a short summary of and lines composed a few miles away from Tintinabé and Ode Immortality Ode by Wordsworth. Two important poems we'll talk about tomorrow, and see you then. Like our video, comment our video, share our video to your friends. See you guys. See you tomorrow.